Welcome everyone to the L7C podcast. We gotta have the weekly Buckeye episode, and today we have the captain, Byron Mitchell. How you doing today, sir?
I'm doing good. I'm ready to talk about these Buckeyes.
Speaking of the Buckeyes, we're halfway through the season now.
4-0?
Yep, 4-0. The fourth win did not come easy at all, and I know you have your notes ready to talk about that. So let's just dive right into this. Ohio State was playing Indiana this past Saturday. It was the big noon kickoff game on Fox. It was the number 3 team in the country at the time against number 9 or 10.
Number 9.
Number 9 in the country. So top 10 matchup. We've been watching Indiana very closely ever since they thrashed that team up north. They got some players. Byron already alluded to, we're 4-0, but that did not come easy. Byron, tell us about this game, man.
So we started off pretty quickly. It was 2 plays. I think both were to Garrett Wilson. And touchdown, easy. We're like, all right, we're about to roll Indiana. And then they came back. I think they scored a field goal or tied it up. I can't remember. But then the next drive, Justin Fields threw an errant pass, an interception, and that kind of gave Indiana some momentum. So like the next couple drives were just not looking good for Ohio State. It was just a bad game. Now, it wasn't a bad game, but it wasn't our best game. We did have some highlights, like Fields. He had 18 for 30 for 300 yards, 2 touchdowns. He did have 3 interceptions.
3.
2 of those interceptions were bad passes. Like, he should have either thrown it out of bounds or just took the sack, but he tried to make something work, and it just wasn't working. I did like our run game. Master Teague had 18 rushes for 169 yards, 2 touchdowns. Fields, he did have 78 yards and a touchdown. Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave just looked great again. 169 yards for 2 touchdowns for Garrett Wilson, and then Chris Olave had 101 yards. So our offense, even though Fields were struggling, our run game stepped it up, and our run game looked very fantastic yesterday. This is what I've been waiting for all season, just that, because our passing games look good, and our run game is there as well.
Yeah, and I just want to go over this quarter by quarter breakdown. Ohio State, the first quarter, they were only up 7-0.
Okay.
And then the second quarter, Indiana scored a touchdown. But Ohio State scored 21 points in the second quarter, so we thought we were going to run away with it. And people also, the spread on this game in Vegas, they had like Ohio State covering 20 points, which I thought was crazy, but that's Vegas. And then Indiana and Ohio State both scored 14 points in the third quarter. But then in the fourth quarter, Indiana scored 14 points. We didn't score a point. And, I mean, the final score came to be 42-35, Ohio State. And there were chances in the fourth quarter. I thought Indiana was going to go down the field and tie the game. What was your panic level in the fourth quarter when they cut it to a one-score game?
Oh, I was panicking because, again, Fields wasn't looking that great. So I don't know if he was going to throw a 4th interception. Indiana's, that passing game was just torching us. Their quarterback, Michael Penix, had 27 for 51, 491 yards, 5 touchdowns.
1 pick. Which the pick probably saved us the game because it was a pick 6.
Pick 6 for Sean Wade, took it to the house.
Who he's been getting torched this year.
Yes, so heads up play to him. Thank you, Sean Wade, for that. And their number 1 wide receiver, Freifogel, 218 yards and 3 touchdowns. On
7 receptions.
Insane.
Averaged 31 yards a reception. And even if you go down the list from him, Marshall, he had 4 catches, 89 yards. That's an average of 22 yards a catch. Ellis had 4 catches for 86. That's an average of 21.5 a catch. Yeah, and they're rushing. They had a point where they were rushing for negative yards in the game, but their passing attack was ridiculous. And if you would have told me that an Ohio State defense would let an Indiana quarterback throw for basically 500 yards, 5 touchdowns, and 1 receiver, has 3 of those touchdowns for 218 yards, I would call you crazy.
Yeah. Especially the way our defense has been playing this year.
Mm-hmm.
We've just been good on all fronts. I don't understand why this game. Like, give credit to where credit is due. Indiana played a fantastic game.
Oh, yeah.
Respect to them. But it just, our pass defense was embarrassed yesterday.
And it's crazy, too, because we won the game and Indiana lost. But then if you watch the post game and Indiana's coach giving his speech in the locker room, it feels like we lost the game. Just because we were in, there was a legit chance we could have lost that game if we didn't get the stop. Who knows what would have happened if we didn't get that pick 6 earlier in the game. But it feel like, and maybe it's the standard of Ohio State that we just beat a top 10 team by a touchdown, and we're sad because it feels like we lost the game even though we won. But down in the SEC, Alabama would have a close game against Ole Miss, and everyone would be talking about how good Ole Miss is. But since we just had a close game with Indiana, which I personally don't think Indiana should have dropped in the rankings. I think they dropped to 12. I think they should have stayed because they proved that they're legit. But it's weird the standard here in Columbus, Ohio, of what we deem as an acceptable win. So I want to talk about Justin for a second. Justin Fields. You were watching the game. You were critical of him because he's never thrown this many interceptions, I think, in his college career. And then
he said yesterday he had a total of 3 for his college career, and then he threw 3 in one game yesterday.
3 in one game, and they were some bad passes. What did you think was going on with him? Because that was very uncharacteristic of him throwing those picks.
I think after that first pick, I think he just got out of rhythm, and he just couldn't shake it. Because normally he doesn't miss that many passes and throws that many interceptions. Like his first game, he was nearly perfect. Just like most of the games, he's been nearly perfect. Just yesterday, I think after that first interception, it rattled him, and then he tried to make plays. Because I guess he was putting pressure on himself, maybe trying to prove himself that he deserves the Heisman, or trying to make plays because Indiana was torching us, but he just didn't look like his normal Justin Fields self.
And you brought up the Heisman. Florida's quarterback was killing it. They're putting him on the Heisman watch. Alabama, I think they won like 63-3, so Mac Jones is climbing up the thing. Trevor Lawrence didn't play because that game was postponed, and if you saw Dabo Swinney, he recently just said that game wasn't postponed because of coronavirus. That was the excuse because FSU didn't want to get smoked by Clemson. So, Dabo's saying Dabo things. So, what does this 3-pick game do to Justman's Heisman candidacy? Because I thought he was becoming the front runner after these first 3 games, but a 3-pick game that ain't good.
It's not good. I think it takes his Heisman stock down a little bit. Not the same, again, not saying that Indiana's bad, but you just don't expect that against Indiana to your front runner for the Heisman to throw 3 interceptions in one game. So if he wants to get back in that Heisman race and get back to the top 3, he's just gonna have to play lights out for the last 4 games.
Yeah, because I'm seeing a lot of push for this Florida quarterback, and obviously Mac Jones and Trevor Lawrence. So I feel like also if we would have lost that game, he would have been out.
Yeah,
because they would have been pointing at the 3 picks for the reason that we lost that game, and his Heisman candidacy would have been over, which would have stinged. But now we are 4-0, and that's going to be the toughest game we play.
Yes,
until we're hoping the goal is the playoffs. Until the playoffs, the College Football Playoff Committee just said recently that there's not going to be like a number of games you have to play for them to be considered. Since we've only played 4 games, and there's some teams who've played 8, 9, close to 10 games already.
Yep.
And I know that was a fear of ours if the other Big Ten schools don't get it together and they get COVID and we get canceled all the way through, and then we're stuck at 4-0. But then we have like a 10-1 Clemson and a 10-1 Notre Dame and an undefeated Alabama. and a 1-loss Florida, and we're only at 4-0, and and that's a concern about who they're going to put in the playoffs. But they said, hey, we're just going to take the 4 best teams, so that is good. And they are coming out with their first rankings actually on Tuesday. So who's your top 4 teams right now in the country, and what do you think the committee's going to pick?
For me, top 4, I would probably say Clemson.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe this is not in order. So Clemson, Alabama, Notre Dame because they beat Clemson, and then Ohio State. What I think the committee is going to pick, I think they'll put Alabama first, then Notre Dame, us, and then Clemson.
Yeah, I agree with your top 4, and now they're going to do it with with Alabama 1, Notre Dame 2, Ohio State 3, Clemson 4. Me personally, I at the end of it, I wanted that we play Clemson first. That's the only team I honestly don't care about. Well, unless we get to the national, I want Clemson. That's Clemson. This whole year for me personally is getting to Clemson. I know the players over there; they've been talking about it. So, but then but then the next 2 teams out, I think it'd be Florida. And then that team down south, Cincinnati, they're in the top 6.
I believe so.
And they have not lost a game.
They're looking good. They're playing some good football under the guise of Luke Fickell. So I wouldn't be surprised if they were 5 or 6 when the rankings come out.
And then there's also, now that the Pac-12 has had 2 weeks, now I think they have Oregon in the top 10.
Oregon, I think, was 11. So I know they won yesterday, so they could have bumped up to the 10 because Indiana lost at 9, and then Wisconsin lost at 10. So I think Oregon either is 9 or 10.
So now Pac-12 is getting involved. Me personally, I don't think they have no shot of getting in. Once Clemson lost, that took the 4th spot.
Yeah.
Because I don't think Clemson's going to, unless Clemson loses again, then we're going to have some real chaos.
Which they could.
Which they could if they lose to Notre Dame in the ACC championship game. But at the time of this, Notre Dame still has to play, or did they play? They still have to play North Carolina in the ACC. And North Carolina is a sneaky team. So they could catch them if they played. I don't think they played yesterday.
Notre Dame had a bye week yesterday.
Yeah, and I think they have North Carolina coming up, and North Carolina could really mess some things up. Because then if they beat Notre Dame, that's a 1-loss Notre Dame and a 1-loss Clemson meeting in the ACC championship game. That means one of them's having 2 losses, and whoever has 2 losses, that team is out. But there's a lot of different things. I do think it's going to take 2 losses from somebody to get Cincinnati in.
Yes. I think, as we said this earlier in the season, if we lose, I don't think we're being in the playoffs.
No.
So either takes a 2-loss team or a 1-loss us for Cincinnati to. Well,
so,
then you have to have Florida lose too. So
yeah, if they're undefeated, and I think Florida will lose to Alabama in the SEC championship game. Now, here's the thing too: if Florida ends up beating Alabama the way things are now, then we have a real problem.
Yes,
because then you have a 1-loss Alabama who lost in the SEC championship game. Because the SEC champ is automatically in, no matter what.
No matter what.
And that's usually how it's been. They've been in automatically.
The ACC champ.
ACC champ's been automatic. Big Ten most of the time, but we did get in that year when we didn't win the Big Ten because we only had 1 loss. So those are the situations that, as a Buckeye fan, you always have to think about, because you don't want to leave you don't want these situations. You just want everyone to stay course. You go undefeated. You get in, and once you get in, it's anybody's ball game to win the championship. And I want to talk about the Big Ten. We've had some cancellations, and since the season started, our commissioner, Kevin Warren, has been nowhere.
MIA.
MIA. The Pac-12 just started, and they've already come out and said, hey, if someone cancels a game and you're wanting to reschedule, as long as that team follows Pac-12 COVID guidelines and they come to your place, you can play them. And the Big Ten is still yet to change that rule. And I'm kind of getting and I was nervous that we were going to have a point where OSU only played like 5 games because everyone else kept canceling on them. And we didn't get in because we didn't play a certain amount of games until the college football committee shut that down. I just think Kevin Warren's been dropping it from the start to now. He's just been dropping the ball, and I don't know what they're doing. What do you think?
Kevin Warren, I'm not going to say he's my least favorite person, but he's leaves a bad taste in my mouth because of the whole starting and not starting the Big Ten.
We would have been almost done with the season if we would have started with the original schedule.
Yep, we would have been playing Michigan this weekend.
Mm-hmm.
But like you said, I think he's just been dropping the ball. Like, I get you want to have, strict COVID restrictions, want to protect players, coaches, and all that. I get that. All for that. But if a team cancels and they can make up the game, I think you should allow that to happen. As long as, again, if they're following the COVID restriction that you've said before, I think they should be allowed to play a different day. Maybe not a Saturday, but just a maybe random day. Let them play football. Because that's what they want to do. They petitioned this, that we want to play football because this is what we love to do. So I think Kevin Warren, as a commissioner, should allow that like other schools are doing. Because I think SEC, they've got some games they're going to make up. I think Pac-12 may have some games they're going to make up. Everyone's making these games up, but Big Ten is just like, no, game got canceled. Oh, well.
Yeah, now you have some of the people... as Dabo Sweeney said now, using COVID as an excuse to cancel the game, but that's not the reason they don't want to play or their players are injured. I have seen some reports where people are like, oh, this game was canceled because of injury and COVID. Games never got canceled because of injury before. And I don't agree with Dabo saying that, but I'm like, there was a point, too, as watching the Big Ten, I'm like, oh, Maryland doesn't want to play.
I said that jokingly, but I feel like Dabo actually meant that.
Oh, yeah, Dabo meant it. He's always due for a zinger, as they would say. And also looking around the Big Ten, too, with Indiana being our toughest game and is going to be our best win. Penn State's 0-5. No one saw that coming all year. I mean, that's been a team that's beaten us a couple times in this 20-year span. So
Penn State has given us their best game every year. They've looked good every year this year. Man, I don't know what is going on.
They don't have a quarterback. That quarterback's not good. Clifford, he's not good.
I mean, he was looking good last year.
Well, that was last year. It looks like he was figured out. When he played against us, the only reason he looked good is because we couldn't guard the wide receiver who had 3 touchdowns on us.
Yeah, we're not good at the deep ball.
They're 0-5. Michigan went to what, double overtime?
Triple overtime.
Triple overtime against Rutgers.
Who are leading Michigan at the half.
Yeah. So Michigan's not good, and that's Michigan's second win of the year. They beat Minnesota, who also is fool's gold, because last year Minnesota had one of their best seasons ever. Could have went to the Big Ten title game, but they blew that. So, and now they're not good. And then Wisconsin, who had their first game,
looked
great. Took 2 weeks because of COVID. Came back, almost dropped 50 on Michigan.
Looked great.
And then they lost to Northwestern. And if the season ended today, it'd be Ohio State versus Northwestern in the Big Ten title game.
Northwestern is also undefeated.
Who's undefeated right now, but we can't count on them to be undefeated by the time we play them. They'll probably lose a game or two.
I mean, I don't know. If they beat Wisconsin, that's a ton of momentum right there.
Oh, absolutely. It's just... But then once you beat Wisconsin, do you have the signature? Your next game, you have the drop-off and you lose. Right. We've been accustomed to that.
Yep.
So that's where the Big Ten's at right now. Like, we're the only team who has a legit chance to make the playoff. Because I even feel like if Northwestern will win the Big Ten, they ain't getting in.
No,
they're not. They're not
ranked high enough.
No, they're not getting in. So that's where we're at in the Big Ten right now. We're halfway through. This is the week leading into Thanksgiving. Ohio State is halfway through the season. We lost one game because of COVID. We're praying we don't lose any other games. We play Illinois this Saturday. Yes. And I think Vegas already came out. We're 30-point favorites. So, And the players know, and Ryan Day has said it too, there's no room for error. We have to win every game to get what we want to get. And I want to go back to, you brought this up, Ohio State secondary. Sean Wayne opted out and then opted back in. He was supposed to be the next man up in that lineage of top corner from Ohio State, who could the Okudas of the world, Marcus Lattimore of the world, even shoot Eli Apple, who's that top 10 corner who gets drafted from, and we can go back to Malcolm Jenkins, who's that top 10 corner who gets drafted from Ohio State to the pros. And this year, he's not been impressing me at the moment. I know he's talked about their winning, so it doesn't really matter. But our secondary, when I've seen competent wide receivers, have gotten torched this year. And that is only concerning, not in terms of Big Ten, but in terms of if we get to the national championship and we got to go get some Alabama wide receivers and we know what they can do, that's concerning. What are you thinking about our secondary and what are you seeing from them?
So again, like you said, when they go against top receivers, they are not looking good.
Mm-mm.
And it's concerning because, like you say, if we go to the playoffs, Trevor Lawrence, he's known to torch people.
Mm-hmm.
Alabama's always known for torching people.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, against those teams, like, if we don't have a competent secondary, we're not going to win those games.
No.
And yesterday, like I said, we looked embarrassed on our pass defense. Looked embarrassed. Our run defense is doing excellent work.
Mm-hmm.
Our pass defense is not. If you know a team is not running against you, why are you not blitzing them more to put pressure on the quarterback who's torched you for 491 yards and 5 touchdowns? I've never seen an Ohio State defense get embarrassed like they did yesterday.
Oh, I don't know. 2 years ago, we did give up 50 points to Maryland.
That is true. So I guess maybe it's just that one game a season where we're just like lapsing. But
my thing too with Kerry Combs, he's the coordinator for the corners and all that, and he works with them. With Freifogel, 7 receptions, 218, and I know we've said this repeatedly, but where's the double team?
Exactly.
Where's the guy shadowing him when he goes up top over you? There was literally times, and we were talking about this when we were watching Indiana earlier in the year. They just throw it up.
Yep.
They're just like, F it. Feifel goes down there somewhere.
Yep.
And they just toss it. And I'm like, where's the double team? Where's the coverage? Why aren't we shifting coverage? If one guy has 218 receiving yards on you, you would think you would double team him. Get him out of the game. You would think after like 150, you'd be like, okay, this is the only guy beating us. He has 3 touchdowns. Let's shift the defense towards him. Let's put a safety over top. Let's give the corner some help. Let's tell the corner to back off so he can't run past him. But I felt like we just weren't adapting to this guy.
We weren't adapting at all yesterday. And that's very strange for Ohio State not to go in at the half and then come out with a scheme to do better.
Mm-hmm.
It was just, there were so many holes on that defense. I'm like, what is going on?
Yeah, it was. They really made Penix Jr., who was good, but that was more his coming out game because a lot of people haven't seen Indiana on national television. Yeah. They saw him. They saw Penix Jr. They saw Freifogel. Now that could help those two get a high draft position going forward when they go to the draft. That could be a career game for them.
That definitely was a career game for them. Like again, much respect to Indiana. They fought for the beginning until the end.
And it's bad how we're saying there's still 4 games left. We still have Michigan at the end, and we're already like, yeah, Indiana's going to be our toughest game for the rest of the year. Like, we're not even, it's sad at the moment, we're nowhere near concerned about Michigan with their 2 wins and
2 and 3.
Yeah, 2 and 3, and maybe they turn it around and get a winning record by the end of this. But
They might. I mean, they started a new quarterback yesterday. He actually looked good. He got like 240 some yards and 4 touchdowns.
Mm-hmm.
So he might be the answer and get them back on a winning record.
Yeah, they've already played Wisconsin, got smoked. They already played Indiana and got smoked. They lost to Michigan State because Michigan State's wide receiver just had a field day on them.
Yeah. Which I know, like, I'm not concerned with our offense.
No.
Our offense, again, Justin Fields had a bad day yesterday. Hopefully that was one and done.
Yeah.
But our offense is looking good. Our run defense is looking good. It's just that secondary, we just got to work. I hope they work hard this week because, man, that did not look good yesterday.
Oh, yeah, and it's going to be talked about Monday. You'll have some people talking about they didn't have a fear of loss, even though we were up by double digits and Indiana came storming back. And it was a one-score game. And they had the ball.
Yes.
It's just our defense made the plays that needed it to be made for us to win the game. So we haven't really had I was joking when I was watching the game with Mitch, saying if this was reversed, if this was at Indiana with fans, or if this was the 7:30 night game, we would have lost.
Yes.
Because they would have had too much momentum when they were coming back. That crowd would have been going freaking crazy.
Oh, yeah.
That's really man, do you have anything else you want to talk about with these Buckeyes? I mean, we're halfway through now. The mission is halfway done. Still got another half of football left, barring any COVID restrictions. I know that Bobby Carpenter tweeted out how the big noon kickoff people were allowed to be at the stadium, but parents weren't.
Yeah,
that's a little. That's
I saw that. I was like, that's strange.
Mm-hmm.
But they should have. But I guess I don't know how else you would broadcast it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, which it was just rough because here in Ohio, we got the stay-at-home advisory, and now fans can, and now parents. Well, first it was parents were allowed to go to games, and now we can't even do that. And I always think about the seniors in those situations because I'm hoping that when it gets to like the senior day game, hoping we even have one, they let the parents at least walk with their kid.
Yeah, I never thought about that.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Strange times.
Strange times. Strange year when you got Indiana in the top 10, now top 12.
Yeah.
Michigan nowhere to be found. Wisconsin blowing it.
Penn State nowhere to be found.
Penn State 0-5. I don't know if
James Franklin.
I don't think they get rid of him after this year because it's just this year, and maybe you could be like, I had a COVID year, but
I feel like they'll give an asterisk on this year, like, well, it's COVID, so.
James Franklin, if he would have tried harder, he might be able to have a national title by now because he would have had Justin Fields. Remember, Justin Fields committed right after we lost to them in 2016 to Penn State.
Yes, he did.
Just think about how things would have changed if Justin Fields would have went to Penn State.
Man,
that means we would be stuck with Tate Martell.
Oh no.
Mm-hmm. That's what you got.
Tate.
I also do. Speaking of quarterbacks, Ohio State did get the number 2 overall prospect in the 2022.
Yep.
And he was the top number 1 quarterback.
We're always good at recruiting. I will say that we do know how to recruit very good players. Mm-hmm. So I'm like never worried about how our next year is going to look. I just want to know, concerned like how they're going to mesh well together. But we always get it together.
Yeah, my biggest thing with recruiting, it's always hard because you see like there'll be the 5-star person in high school and things like that. And then when they get to Ohio State, they don't perform well or they don't play at all.
Yeah. Because
when you get to Ohio State, everyone's a 5 or 4-star when you get there. And then they're going at it at practice. So that's one of the things I like to see them play. And Ryan Day has been recruiting since he got there.
Ryan Day, man.
He's going everywhere. He's taking people from Florida, taking people from Texas, California. He's just going in everyone's state, taking them. And they're seeing the development. Like if you just think about his 2 quarterbacks that he's had, Dwayne Haskins was a top 20 pick in the NFL draft.
Yes, he was.
Justin Fields will be a top 20 pick. He's going to be the number 2 pick in the draft.
He may go before Trevor.
He may go before Trevor. There's talks, but safe bet is he'll go number 2.
Yes.
So you had 2 top 15 quarterbacks in a row that you coached. That is such a great recruitment tool. These other quarterbacks are like, oh, I want to come to Ohio State. And I know that we have the DBU. I like Ohio State says they're just the BIA, the best in America, because they're just they're just getting everybody.
They really are. It's just amazing, just their recruiting, especially Ryan Day's second year as a head coach. And just the players he's had, it's just does a great job. I'm very impressed with Ryan Day.
I know a lot of people made the joke about. Did you see the hit that Justin Fields took? Where they were talking about that should have been a targeting, that would have been a targeting.
Yes, I said the same thing.
If that was Trevor Lawrence, that would have been a targeting.
I said the same thing to my brother yesterday. I was like, well, if that was Trevor Lawrence, that definitely would have flagged. He would have been out the game.
Yeah, it should have been a targeting, but the only thing I can say is at least he didn't get hurt or a concussion, so we go from there. We play Illinois this Saturday. This Saturday, we're a 30-point favorite. Let's act like 30-point favorites. Let's blow them out by 30. Byron, you got anything else you want to say about this review halfway through the season?
Halfway through the season, there are opportunities on Justin Fields. Again, I hope this was just a one-off situation. Just gets back to being the Justin Fields that we know he can be. No more 3 interception games. Hopefully our defense just works hard, not gets torched again, because get torched in the playoffs,
we're going to be out.
Not going to be good. So I just need everyone to work hard, again, halfway through the season, go out, win these last 4 games, show the world that we belong in the playoffs.
You heard the captain, show the world we belong in the playoffs. And as Buckeye fans, we're always watching the other games very carefully. We're at a point in these past, especially Urban, since the playoffs have started, we don't even compare ourselves to the Big Ten anymore. We're just like, how would we play against Clemson? If Justin Fields has a 3-pick game against Clemson or Bama, we're getting blown out.
Yes.
So that's just why it's a concern. But as Byron said, we're just hoping it's one game. He'll probably come back this Saturday, throw 6 touchdowns, no picks, have 2 incompletions, and call it a day by halftime. So we will see. But that is all we have for this week's review of the Buckeyes and technically the halfway point of the season. Thank you, Byron, for being on.
Always.
The captain. Thank you guys all for listening to L7C Podcast. Continue to like, rate, comment, subscribe. Listen wherever you listen. And you guys have a great rest of your day. Take care. Thank you for listening to this episode of the L7C Podcast. Be sure to like, rate, review, and subscribe to the channel. Follow us on all social media platforms, and we'll be talking to you guys soon. Take care.